here in France.
Yeah, we're getting the details of what the tax and spending plans are for 2015. The French president promised that this would be a budget that focuses on reforms rather than cutting the deficit. As expected, France will miss its EU deficit target with a gap of 4.3% of GDP between revenue and spending, or more than 75 billion euros. But the burden on French taxpayers doesn't look set to ease much, despite planned tax cuts. Well, for all the details, let's go straight to our reporter Kate Moody, who's at the French Finance Ministry in Paris. Katie, we're listening to all those announcements as they were being made there. Let's look first at the big picture and the state of the French economy.
Well, we had a very upfront admission from French Finance Minister Michel Sapin that France's economy is in a very difficult situation indeed. Inflation is low, unemployment is high, economic growth has stagnated. As you said, France is going to be missing the EU's target of bringing its deficit down below the 3% mark. That's not expected to happen before 2017 now. So despite that rather gloomy picture, though, the Hollande administration is planning to stick to its basic idea to turn things around. That includes continued support for businesses to encourage them to hire more people. We're also going to be seeing this 50 billion euros in public spending cuts over the next few years. We got a few details of what exactly that will entail this morning. We're going to be seeing 21 billion euros in cuts over the next year in 2015. That's going to include 7.7 billion euros in cuts coming from the state and its agencies, a much smaller amount coming from local communities, and about 9.5 billion euros coming from social security programs, including healthcare benefits.
Plenty of bad news there as well. Of course, rising taxes has been a major feature of recent years here in France. Is there any good news for taxpayers in this budget?
Well, it's a rather mixed bag for taxpayers, I have to say, who have, as you said, been complaining over the past year of increasing taxes. Their burden pretty heavy there. We heard about a new tax cut for low-income earners this morning. So a single worker earning about 1,350 euros per month will see their income tax bill cut by around 220 euros per month. So that will help one band of taxpayers. Some bad news, though, for anyone driving here in France. They will be raising taxes on petrol, about 2 cents per litre, something that will, of course, be affecting most French taxpayers there. It's apparently an effort to boost focus on green energy and green technology transports here in France.
OK, Kate Moody at the French Finance Ministry, thanks for joining us.
OK, Stephen, can you take us through what's happening on the markets?
We're going to start first here in Europe, where trading's just begun. The market's all opening in the red in Europe. London, we've seen shares in the retailer Sainsbury's actually trading up slightly, despite news that its sales were down in the past 4 months by almost 3%, in fact. Here in Paris, good news for the car maker PSA, Peugeot Citroën. Their shares up over 2% after it saw a 17% jump in registration of new cars in September. That coming, of course, just ahead of the opening of the Paris Auto Show. Over in Asia, quiet day. Of course, Hong Kong and Shanghai closed because of the Chinese national holiday. Good news about business confidence in Japan not helping the Nikkei there, which closed down. The Kospi also falling on news of falling car production. Let's move on now with a quick look at some of the day's other business stories. And the UK's financial watchdog has begun an investigation into the accounting scandal at Tesco. Last week, the retailer saw 3.8 billion euros wiped off its value after announcing it had overstated its first half profits by more than 300 million euros. The company suspended 4 executives as a result and is also carrying out its own inquiry. Microsoft's unveiled the newest version of its Windows operating system. Windows 10 will succeed the current Windows 8, which was widely criticised by users. The update will see the return of the Start button and better integration of touchscreen technology. Microsoft has yet to announce a launch date, though, for the new software. And a French consumer group has begun the first class action lawsuit in France. UFC Que Choisir is leading the action against the property management company Foncia for charging tenants fees to pay their rent. It says there'll be more than 300,000 people represented in the case.
How can you charge people fees to pay their rent? I don't understand.
That's exactly the question that the consumer group is trying to answer.
We'll find out, won't we? OK, but just a final word about some very high-tech advances in China.
Yeah, that's right. You could use a mobile phone to control a train, but that's what's being tried out on these enormously long coal trains. They tested it on a 3-kilometre long train that travelled between the Chinese provinces of Shaanxi and Hebei. The onboard network was used to monitor the length of the train and for the staff members to communicate between each other because, of course, the train being so long, they're quite a distance apart. They said this is new technology to help try and control things using the 4G network.
That's incredible. You just got to hope no one hacks it, haven't you? Thanks very much, Stephen Carroll, business editor here on France 24. Short break now, and we will be back with all the latest on all of our top news stories, plus a special focus report on just why hundreds of young Europeans are joining Islamist extremist fighters in the Middle East.
Beyond Business.
They've been called mercenaries, guns for hire and freelance fighters. In the next Beyond Business, we look at the rise of private military companies. The sector's grown into a multi-billion euro business, but it stands accused of unaccountability and a poor human rights record.
Beyond Business. En France 24, en France24.com.